You're watching Suck Professor. Hello, everybody. It's me, Hank. I'm joined by
James.
James, join me in a hiya.
What does that mean?
Oh, Westworld 2. We're riding our horse into the sunset, or into the bright, bold, automated robot future. Guys, Westworld 2 trailer is out, or a second one. The release of season 2 is almost upon us. We're going to be doing big, long, shot-by-shot breakdowns. It's like the most important time of the year for us here. This is basically Hanukkah for us over here at Suck Professor. Would you say so, James?
Lasts a little bit longer than 8 days, though.
I wish I could last 8 minutes. All right. Why did that one come out loud?
Yes.
Ah, fuck. All right. So, guys, we picked out some screenshots. We would normally do more detailed shot-by-shots, but we just kind of went through and picked out some key ones. I gave James a homework assignment, and I picked out a few. James picked out a few. We're going to go through them and look at them, and there's a lot. This trailer had a lot going on.
Yeah, it's a lot of meat on the bone, as they say.
Yes. Good job. We should open a restaurant. All right. So, first one, boom. James wanted to see Dolores' back, or at least we all assume that's Dolores.
Right, so Dolores is in her interrogation room that we've seen her in before with Bernard multiple times. But the big difference here is that we learned that the chronology of Season 2 is not taking place after the invasion. It's going back in time to kind of fill in things that we didn't see during Season 1. Namely, when did William make his transgression... What do you want to call it?
Transition?
Transitioned... into...
How did he become sweet, innocent Jimmy and turn into murder maniac?
Well, Jimmy's the name of his actual... who he is. His character is William.
Oh. Who's Jimmy?
Jimmy Simpson?
Oh, Simpson. Oh, that.
Yeah. That's the actual person.
I saw him walking around once, and not far from here.
Yeah,
we live in L.A. Right?
People tend to do that.
Yeah.
They walk around.
He looked just like himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stabbed him in the belly and turned out he was human.
Yeah.
Go ahead, now.
But he was trying to make his transition into the Man in Black. So how did he essentially... reconcile his love of Dolores originally with the man that he would soon become, the one who would rape, murder, and torture.
Yeah.
And this is him in the room with her, showing that he did become a figurehead of the Delos Corporation.
Yeah, so we see from behind in this trailer, and then Jimmy, it turns out it's him talking to her right there. So that's interesting that not only is he in this background area here, but so we're assuming this is shortly after the events of season or timeline, the early timeline.
Right, because the last thing we saw of him when he was still William was when he sent Logan off naked on a horse into the sunset, and then we learned that he eventually transitions into the Man in Black.
The Man in Black. And look what he's wearing.
Right, so how does Logan get out of the picture? How does he become the head of the corporation? How does Dr. Ford come into the picture later on? All of these things are kind of things that are alluded to, but we don't exactly know how they play out.
Yes, and so we'll find out. And who knows what's going on here? We'll see what happens. And what time of year is this? This is somewhere between year, let's say year 0 and year 30 as far as Jimmy's progression. Just because it's like the 30-year gap between Ed Harris and Jimmy Simpson. I keep calling him Jimmy, I know, but people know who I'm talking about. So is this like year 2 or 3 after he's starting to adapt into himself?
Well, you mentioned that he was wearing all black in this case, and you could argue that people in certain positions in behavioral science and things inside the corporation were a certain color. But he's a top-end executive, so you can interpret it as though he's already kind of made his transformation into a darker side of his own psyche.
Sure. Or he's joined the crew of the local theater.
Could be.
Yeah, he's backstage. Okay, all right. So next one. I picked out this guy. This was just a dead boy.
Just a dead boy.
But this looks like the Man in Black. We don't know for sure, but that's my read. And this looks like young Robert Ford, the robot that was created. It's Robert Ford, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Ford. And Dr. Ford takes him and shows him a snake, as everybody remembers. So, I don't know. This just looks terrible, and it's an interesting screenshot.
It's never a good thing when you hear about an old man showing a little boy a snake. In the middle of nowhere. But no, it looks like he's we know
that sums up Christianity.
Yeah, we know his face opens up. These are the early forms of the hosts.
Yeah.
Back before they had flesh and blood and so forth. And we know that whatever happened here, he met his end due to some blunt force trauma to the face. He cracked open like a porcelain doll. We can only assume the Man in Black is going away. Maybe it's the Man in Black trying to take out his aggressions against Dr. Ford for creating the world that they're in right now.
Yeah.
Even though the Man in Black now lives in a version of Westworld that he always yearned for. So what would be the cause for this sort of aggression? Is it because he didn't let him in on the secret that he was planning, that he didn't let him know his master plan was moving towards the world that he always wanted, that he didn't let him be a part of it, even though he's one of the main owners of the corporation?
Wow. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. All right. I tuned out there for a little bit. All right. Next one. You picked out this guy. Now, what are we looking at here?
This looks like one of two people. This looks like either the person we see Maeve banging in the trailer, who, you know, the guy with the... I'm bad with names.
Well, it's not Logan. It's the Hector.
Well, Hector, yes. Yeah. It either looks like him, but I'd like to choose to believe that this is Logan.
So this guy, this way this is presented in the trailer is they're one of the, what are these guys? The Ghost Nation. Ghost Nation. He walks in, we see him there. All right, so you think that might be Hector?
Well, I think this might be Logan.
Or Logan, okay.
So, because the last time we saw Logan was when he was on horseback being kicked off into the desert. And because we know from the prior scenes in the trailer that they're flashing back in the chronology, that it doesn't have to be something that takes place after the events that we last saw in Season 1.
Right.
So this could be backfilling in what happened to Logan. Did he die out there? Apparently, no, he did not. He was rescued or taken in by the Ghost Nation, and perhaps he became some sort of person. I choose not to believe that he became a human living behind the scenes in the park, sort of like a what's the Dr. Livingston or whatever out in the
like
like Kurtz from Heart of Darkness,
the Hunchback of Notre Dame. You mean
Sure.
like that, like a guy who's like stuck in the building but they just let him live there?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. Because you'd think that he being an important person in the corporation, they would have been looking for him, they would have gotten him out, he would have known where to go to get out and so forth. But I think this is going to kind of go back and fill in those critical missing gaps that shows what was his role in William's hostile takeover of the corporation. Why does he become subservient? Why does William get away with it? And if William doesn't truly completely get away with it, what role does Logan play?
Right. Well, William does certainly largely get away with things because his life, he turns into an evil old man.
And
but
will he,
also, go ahead.
Will he ever find his pants?
Yeah, that's what he's looking for, buried treasure in the form. If you don't have pants, pants are treasure. You notice these are footprints. I'm not a tracker, but I have seen Lord of the Rings, and I think only one person walked up to here. You know, if there was multiple people, and it doesn't look like someone walked away unless you fought. I don't know. So he's by himself as far as what I'm reading about.
That would be apparent, yes.
If you've ever read a Hardy Boys novel, you're an expert. And all right, so next one here then. I picked out this one. It's not an exciting screenshot, but this is Logan, right? We know he's
Looks like him.
Rich. He's a scion of a rich family. He's part of the corporate ownership, but the family that owns it. I'm just guessing this is his dad. I recognize this actor from other things. He's kind of a gruff, tough guy. He seems like a good casting choice for like a rich CEO type of guy. So I don't know. We'll just find out more about this character as things go on. That's pretty much why I picked this one. Plus, I like infinity pools. I've always wanted to have one. Most I can afford is Tumblr. All right, I picked out this one here. So what's her name? Scarlett, Genevieve, Clementine, Tangerine, Clementine. Couple things stand out. She's first the vacant face, so she seems to be operating under some sort of traumatic or shutdown mode. I don't know.
Well, she had a lobotomy the last time we saw her. Remember?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, yeah. So this is either post or pre that we're not sure.
I think they repaired her and brought her back. I think she did make a return in Season 1.
Okay,
near the end.
Fair. And then there's these weird lines here, which look like could be burns or just, it's hard to say what those are. Some sort of I don't know if it's not makeup. I don't know. Maybe they're about, I don't know. So, but the obvious detail is she's being chased by what looks like 3 vehicles.
Yes, this is Fury Road.
Yep. Yeah, this is Fury Road. So she's running away, but if you pull out a little, or the trailer then backs up, there's only 2. It looks like she's on a horse and she's being followed. But I wonder if this is just a production mistake. I don't think that's some kind of hint that they're getting at. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's 30 years later. The same. Okay. All right. So next one. I just don't know what that is. It's some sort of thing. We get a bunch of oh shit, that one's cool too. But some set of technology thing. Do you think this is the soul?
Well, it could be. It's showing how intricate the machines are that actually form the tissue and muscle of the actual creation.
I hope they get more into that. That's the kind of part of sci-fi that I enjoy, where they sort of techno-babble through stuff. But I like to see how inventive they are about how they come up with all that stuff. So that one was interesting. Shogun World. Yes. I was hoping to see this. That's all I really wanted. If you advance a little, there's a Maeve shot. Boom.
Which basically shows that she's become the head of this organization as well. She has used her superior intellect, strength, all her little sliders kicked up to max. So she has basically enlisted their aid in whatever her quest is.
Yeah, and she's taken the name Genghis. Gonna kick your ass.
Yes,
and I know
Genghis Maeve.
He wasn't Japanese. He was Mongolian. And
yes,
but so,
he was.
Anyway. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, next one. Well, who knows?
Scratching his head with his gun.
Either that or he's trying to manipulate his girlfriend into not having to go visit her parents. You know, people threaten suicide or they're going to end the relationship.
Yeah, so this is the kind of questionable one because he's in a world that he wants to be in.
Yeah, what's going on here? Is this has he been bested and now he has no other option? Not that this is a great choice, but
is he having some internal psychological, philosophical struggle at this moment that we're not keyed into because we can't hear the dialogue?
I hope it doesn't turn out he's a robot all along or some shit like that. I'd be pretty surprised that's the case. So who knows? We'll find out. Stay tuned. This one's a big one.
We both picked this.
Yeah, we both picked on this one. So. Actually, let's just scrub through a little, because if you rewind, so we see Dolores in contemporary world, right here. So she's just wearing a nice dress, got the thing, got her hair pulled back nice and tight. I always feel like that's probably kind of uncomfortable. I don't know. You can't tell.
No, I can tell you it is.
Yeah, is it comfortable?
Yeah. No, it's not.
No, not. All right.
When you pull tension on your hair for a long period of time, it can cause migraines.
Oh, good. Well, no, for the first time in my life, I'm glad I went bald in my teens. So she's in our world, or in modern world at least, modern skyscrapers and stuff. So we don't know, is this a robot? Is this what? But then as it advances, then it cuts to this shot, which she's dressed differently, but still in a contemporary setting. And what do you make of this? Is this from behind?
It's clearly William.
Yeah, I would. That's the best theory based on this shot. It's not. I wouldn't say clearly, but my tolerance for that kind of confidence is less than yours. But I would bet it's William.
Yeah.
So what are we thinking here? Is this real life? Is this the original Dolores? This is a real flesh person?
The big mystery of Dolores is that Dolores was apparently the first creation of, was it Arnold's first creation? I think it was.
Yeah.
And she was the oldest one in the park.
Wife, weren't they married?
That's my leading theory. I believe that Dolores was most likely Arnold's wife. That's why he was so fond of her. That's why she was so critical to him. That's probably why you see references to her in the real world here with what we assume of these high luxurious parties of the Delos Corporation. So the question that becomes, though, if that was Arnold's wife, would she be sitting there playing the piano? Or was this perhaps another version of her? Maybe there are multiple versions of Dolores throughout the park. Maybe they brought some in for entertainment in the party. Maybe one played the piano. Maybe some served drinks. Who knows?
Right.
But this has got to be an awkward moment for William, because William fell for Dolores, or fell for the host version of Dolores in the park, which led him on his journey into becoming who he eventually became.
Yeah.
And to have her constantly in his face outside this world could be a little jarring. It could kind of make him question as to whether she is as real as she felt when he was in the park with her, maybe breathe some disdain within him, and maybe cause him to disregard her as a human-like counterpart to himself.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we'll hopefully learn more in season 2 about where Dolores originated from, because she came in through Arnold, though. Yeah.
I mean, everything seems to suggest to me. We've seen Arnold's kid too, right?
We have. Oh, yeah. the boy who dies.
Yes.
I thought that was all made up.
No, that was Arnold's true memory implanted into Bernard, because one of the key cruxes of achieving true self-consciousness is suffering. And that's why Arnold knew that he had to make each one of the characters suffer.
Yeah, you're okay. Fair, right. From suffering emerges consciousness is so essentially the theory. I don't know if that's
now knowing Bernard, physically seeing Bernard, and physically seeing the child, can you perhaps surmise that there's a possibility from a genetic perspective that that child could be the offspring of Bernard and Dolores?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You're interracial kid, is that what you're saying? Yeah. And you can have two siblings from a mixed parenting, and the skin tones will be different too. So I'm not trying to make any statements about it. Genetic variability is interesting that way. So we'll see. I don't know. I thought this was an interesting screenshot.
And could this be a metaphorical thing where it's suddenly Dolores is the one who's in control of the mechanical?
Yeah.
She's in front of the piano. She's the player. She's the conductor of her own orchestra now. She becomes Bandolier Dolores in this world of chaos and war.
Right. Yeah.
Probably not.
Well, after 30 or whatever many years of being daily raped and murdered and whatever else, it's about time to fight back, I'd say. And she wore shoes that matches the keys on the piano, so that's nice.
And they're made of ivory.
Very
uncomfortable.
I do like a nice white high heel. I like all high heels now that I'm thinking about it. Except polka dot.
I don't care for them. They look very painful and unnatural. And
they do. Yes, it's one of those stranger behaviors humans do, is to wear tiny stilts and walk around and go, look at my legs, boy.
This is weird.
All right, so also I can't find them in my size, so I have to make them at home out of wood. Yeah. Okay, next one. I missed this completely. James pointed this out, so you win. Yeah. The screenshot of the day is the army of Bernards. What?
Bernard.
First, that's Tessa Thompson, the character's name.
Charlotte Hale.
Charlotte Hale. She's like a corporate executive,
right?
Younger, kind of the new guard, taking over, sort of working on booting out the old snake charmer, Dr. Ford. But okay, what's up with all these Bernards, James?
So she was always an adversary to Dr. Ford. Therefore, she was also an adversary to Bernard, because Dr. Ford and Bernard were kind of linked together in their vision of the park and the vision of what was going to happen with it, before Bernard had his revelation that he was actually Arnold.
Yeah.
So now we know from the trailer that Bernard is traveling around with members of the Resistance, the human Resistance, which we can only assume Charlotte Hale is part of. So
the resistance to the rebellion.
Yes, the human Resistance.
Yeah, but the Resistance implies that they're resisting the greater evil.
Right, they are resisting the hosts. They're the minority. They're the Resistance.
Who's the Resistance?
The humans.
I thought the robots are who we're supposed to cheer for.
They're the Resistance to the.
That's like calling
the aggressors.
That's like calling Emperor Palpatine the Resistance to the rebels.
Well, they're trapped inside this area. They're the ones at the disadvantage. They are the weaker form of this conflict.
The people, the corporate human beings
yes.
that have access to the planet Earth's mercenary armies.
Yes, they are resisting against the rebellion. The rebellion was kicked off by the host, therefore they're resisting it. Resistance does not always imply good.
Yes, indeed. The resistance is a term that could be, doesn't necessarily have negative or positive connotations, but in terms of a human rebellion, generally the resistance is the underdogs.
And they very much are in this case. They used to be the other side of things. Now they've been completely overpowered. Their toys have been turned against them.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are kind of up against the wall.
Okay, all right. No, I get it. I think that's an interesting framing that can provoke more interesting discussion. So thanks for joining the convo.
Yeah, but we can see here that for some reason there have been multiple iterations of Bernard. We can see from the left to potentially the right, we see his face coming apart, much like the young Robert Ford, the child. We know those are the earlier versions of them, and then they progress further. So there's multiple questions here. Is the significance of this scene that Charlotte Hale has discovered this cache of Bernards, and she now knows that the man who's traveling with her, Bernard, is actually a host, and she's going to use this as a bargaining chip against him to try and gain some leverage in this rebellion, resistance, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
So it looks like she has somewhat of an expression on her face as though, look what I've discovered, or we can use this for our advantage.
Yeah.
And the second question is, why would Dr. Ford need to create so many different iterations of Bernard? Is it simply because he was perfecting him over time, which is what this progression from the left to the right seems to suggest? Or are we led to believe that there have been multiple versions of Bernard active in the world at any single point in time?
Wow, that's an interesting thought. It's, we don't have answers. My guess would be that they just had backups, because if you're going to create duplicates of yourself, if you're going to do that, my understanding was that Bernard was more a result of Arnold's initiations. Like, he set that whole thing in motion rather than Dr. Ford. Or did Dr. Ford create Bernard to keep Arnold around?
No, Dr. Ford created Arnold himself, created Bernard himself in his private laboratory.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought that Arnold made Bernard so that Arnold could continue to live, basically becoming immortal as in the version of
but
Bernard.
that is one of the leading theories from season 1 that people are speculating, or have been speculating, that Dr. Ford either created a version of himself to live on, or the version that was killed at the end of season 1 was actually a host, and that Dr. Ford is still out there. And Dr. Ford was always about control, and Arnold was always about freedom. And they were trying to work towards the same goal, but then Dr. Ford eventually gets to the end of his life. He becomes old. He realizes that his time on the Earth is finite, that he is losing control over his own mortality. He knows that the board members are trying to force him out, so he basically plays his own hand at the very end and ushers forth into the rebellion.
Okay.
Which is pretty interesting, because I think one of the last things he said was like, Mozart and Chopin, they did not die or fade away. They simply became music.
Right.
And what he is doing is he is becoming the narrative.
Interesting. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So many words. I'm like, it's hard for me to keep up. Yeah, I think it's fascinating though. Maybe they're casting for multiplicity too.
And the biggest question is, why are they in rain ponchos as they're inside?
Oh, they're just keeping the dust off. You know, like old haunted houses where you put sheets on the old furniture and stuff. Yeah, you know, and will they activate them all at the same time, and suddenly everybody gets to have interviews?
I want to see a Bernard barbershop quartet. Hello, hello, hello.
Well, it'd all just be hello, hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Jeffrey Wright. I like that guy though. By the way, cool dude. It seems. Fun times. All right. Well, there you go, everybody. There's screenshots. James, anything else you want to add? Any extra thoughts?
No, there's a lot going on in the trailer. There's a lot going to happen in the season. I was worried from season 1 that all the mysteries have been revealed, that all the philosophy had already been drawn out to its conclusion, that there wouldn't be any more mysteries and intrigue, but it looks as though that's not the case.
Yes.
They've saved some stuff for the season.
We'll know the show has jumped the shark when they bring in like a baby or something, like, oh, guess who's pregnant? Everybody gonna...
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Or when one of them, water skiing and then jumps over a shark. Mm-hmm. That's a reference to something.
Yeah, and we talked about like what could happen in that case with Furbies and Tamagotchi eggs.
Yes, that was on our podcast. Okay, but anyway, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching the thing. We're going to be doing shot-by-shot breakdowns of Westworld Season 2, just like we did for Westworld Season 1. Look in the description if you want to watch those. And everybody's getting excited about this upcoming season, James. And if you do feel like listening to our podcast, we're on Patreon. It's a $5 thing, or you can pay more, you can pay less if you want, whatever. We're grateful for anybody who chooses to support us that way. Meanwhile, though, just keep liking, subscribing, commenting, tweeting, and being fascinated by this excellent show. Thanks to HBO for all their hard work. James, you may now have a sleepful rest in a long slumber.
Bad commander file name. Abort, retry, fail.
Ah, crap. Now I gotta call the Geek Squad.